This is Sky News at 2, the top stories. Passengers are turned away from flights bound for the United States under President Trump's new immigration rules. Theresa May agrees closer cooperation with Turkey on trade and security. Tributes are paid to actor Sir John Hurt, who's died at the age of 77. Also today,
the warehouse is filled with rockets. Designed for fighter jets, Islamic State have been modifying them for use on the ground.
We see evidence of Islamic State's effort to make chemical weapons warheads in Iraq. And Sky News heads to Spain to trace the widow of a British millionaire who died in a suspicious car accident.
Serena Williams creates history in Melbourne. Liverpool trail Wolves 2-0 in the FA Cup, and Rangers see red as they try to go back to second in the Scottish Premiership.
Good afternoon. Travellers have been turned away from an international flight bound for the United States under new controls introduced by President Trump. As part of a tough stance on immigration, no visas are being issued to migrants or visitors from 7 mainly Muslim countries. 7 people due to board a flight from Cairo to New York have been prevented from travelling. Sky's Laura Bundock has this report.
And this is the protection of the nation from foreign terrorist entry into the United States. We all know what that means.
1 week in, and Donald Trump is making a mark with his presidency, hoping the world will listen as he sets out his international plans. Laura Bundock, Sky News.
Well, let's get more now on how that conversation between Presidents Trump and Putin could pan out. Let's go live to Moscow and our correspondent John Sparks. And John, what are the Kremlin hoping to get through from this chat?
Well, I think they're hopeful and optimistic. We've heard from the head of President Putin's Security Council, a man called Nikolai Patrushev. He has said that the conversation will be positive. Everything will be positive, he says. And I think that that does tell you that the Russians are pretty happy with the telephone call. They've got a call on substantive issues with the President of the United States early on in his presidential term. And I think that that tells you that Russia matters, that President Putin matters. And that is one thing that this country really wants. It wants to matter in the world. Sanctions clearly will be at the top of the agenda, particularly for the Russians. Not only do we have sanctions put on the country in 2014 after Russia annexed Crimea, as we heard, President Obama also added some new sanctions after the US intelligence agencies came forward and said that the Russians had tried to interfere in the presidential election. Those sanctions have hurt the Russian economy. They are hurting. Western banks, for example, can't loan to Russian companies. There's a ban on technology being exported to Russian oil companies. That's hurt those companies as well. And I can tell you that the economy here is not in good shape. A lot of people are suffering. So sanctions, that will be right at the top of the list. They will discuss that on the phone. In terms of Donald Trump, it's been less clear what he stands to gain from having a good relationship with Russia. He has said that he wants to cooperate with President Putin in the fight against terror. He has sort of drawn back. He's rowed back slightly in terms of his platitudes that he was issuing during his presidential campaign, including on sanctions. Yesterday at the press conference with Theresa May, we heard him say it's very early to be talking about sanctions. I want a fantastic relationship with Russia, he said, but there are no guarantees. I think that's a distinct a rowback, a change in tone. And I think that reflects the fact that a lot of people in Washington, in Congress, including members of his own cabinet, feel distinctly uncomfortable about normalizing relationships with President Putin's Russia.
OK, John, thanks very much. Following her meeting with Mr. Trump, Theresa May has been meeting her second president in as many days, holding talks with Turkey's leader, President Erdogan. The Prime Minister says she's agreed closer cooperation on trade and security. She also raised the issues of human rights, following Turkey's clampdown on civil liberties after last summer's failed coup.
Turkey is one of the UK's oldest friends. Our relations stretch back over 400 years.
Well, our political editor Faisal Islam is travelling with the Prime Minister and joins us on the line from Ankara. And Faisal, what is the Prime Minister's plan for today?
Well, it was interesting that the Prime Minister did raise briefly the issue of human rights, as you heard in that clip, also in terms of punching above its weight in the world on security and defence and also diplomacy as well.
OK, Faisal, thanks very much. Now, the Labour Party is attempting to contain a rebellion among its front benchers over Jeremy Corbyn's decision to order his MPs to vote for the government's Article 50 bill next week. It comes as Labour's Deputy Leader Tom Watson has also put himself at odds with Mr Corbyn by suggesting that Britain should buy British in response to Brexit and Donald Trump. Well, we can speak to Tom Watson now. Thanks very much for joining us, Mr Watson. Are you part of this rebellion?
Hi, Rebecca. Just to say to you, Rebecca, I'm not actually at odds with Jeremy for asking people to buy British. I think he wants people to buy British too. What was your question, sorry?
But he's made it very clear, hasn't he, that he supports the single market, he wants free trade deals. Today you are encouraging people to buy from Britain.
No, really, what I'm saying today is for people to look at the basis for America's new economic thinking. What Donald Trump is saying is that the free trade agreements that are underpinned by the current international treaties are being unfairly manipulated by China, who are using hidden state subsidies to give greater advantage to their state-sponsored industries than in Western markets. Now, I'm just posing the question today, what if he's right on that? What if Donald Trump brings the manufacturing jobs back to America? He says buy America. The rational choice for a British politician is to say buy British, and we bring our manufacturing jobs back to Britain. I don't think that's an unreasonable response, at least, to the new Trump administration, and it's certainly something that I hope people on left and right in politics can seriously look at.
Two shadow cabinet resignations over Brexit debate in as many days. Are you concerned about that?
I'm obviously concerned, but I do understand the pressures my colleagues are under. I was desperately disappointed that my colleague Jo Stevens left the Shadow Cabinet yesterday. She's a very honourable Member of Parliament. She works very hard for her constituents in Cardiff. I have a hunch that we'll see her on the front bench in years to come. But obviously these are unique times, and the Brexit vote was a particularly unique event in that it gave a binary choice to voters in a referendum, and politicians know how their constituents voted. So, look, we take a position, right? We were a Remain party. We campaigned for Remain, but we're also Democrats, and we respect the judgment of the British people. We're going to make sure that Article 50 is triggered. But of course we're very sensitive to our colleagues who feel that they have to listen to their constituents. I've said that, and Jeremy Corbyn has also said that.
Well, picking up on that point, should front benchers, will they get sacked or punished if they defy Mr Corbyn?
Obviously, if you're in the shadow cabinet of the Labour Party, you come to a collective position, and we've done that. We are supporting Article 50. And you saw with my colleague Jo that she felt that she had to do the honourable thing because she wants to campaign against that. I accept that. But this is a particularly unique situation in politics, and we're going to deal with those things sensitively. I don't want the careers of those front benchers who feel that they've got to take a different view to be ended forever. But obviously we're taking a position, and that's Jeremy's position. It's my position. It's the position of the Shadow Cabinet.
While I've got you, just want to ask you, how do you think the Prime Minister handled the new President Trump?
Well, I'm greatly relieved that she extracted, or supposedly extracted, a commitment to NATO from President Trump. I think everyone in this country should feel very pleased about that. We still don't know what they discussed in private, and I think we need to see what comes out in the next day or two over on that one.
OK, Tom Watson, thanks very much for joining us this afternoon. Now, he's best known for his roles in The Alien and The Elephant Man, but more recently starred in Harry Potter and Doctor Who. What's clear is that over 6 decades, Sir John Hurt earned the respect of audiences and his fellow actors. He's died at the age of 77. Dan Whitehead looks back at his career and his life. Hello. Tributes to Sir John Hurt, who's died at the age of 77. Now, dramatic footage has emerged of the moment a pickup truck crashed into the side of a bus in New York. A warning hour pictures show the moment of impact. The whole thing was caught on the bus's CCTV cameras. Incredibly, no one was seriously hurt in the incident. Police said the truck was coming off the interstate and swerved to avoid traffic and then collided with the bus. The driver was Neil Brownell, aged 82, from West Monroe. A huge lava spill in Hawaii has been caught on camera from the air. An eruption of one vent on this volcano sent a continuous path of molten lava towards the Pacific Ocean, with experts saying it had advanced a third of a mile. Sky News has traced the widow of a British millionaire who refused to appear at the inquest into her husband's death or to answer questions from detectives. Anna Zazina is now living in Marbella in Spain, and this week a UK coroner ruled that her late husband, Barry Pring, was unlawfully killed when he was hit by a car in Ukraine in 2008. Martin Brunt has this report from Marbella.
This was Anna Zuzana long after her husband Barry's violent death, with Barry Pring's family say they are still waiting for the truth. Martin Brunt, Sky News, Marbella.
This is Sky News coming up. Well, let's just bring you live pictures from Catania in Italy now. More than 700 migrants are being brought ashore. They were rescued in the Mediterranean by the Italian Coast Guard. One person is thought to have died before the rescue got underway, but those pictures in Catania in Italy now. This is Sky News. Let's cross over now to Sky Sports Studio for an update. Time for a look at the weather now.
Australia welcomes a bright day as clouds drift through European skies.
It will be cloudy and wet for northern England and Scotland this afternoon as an area of rain and mountain snow gradually clears northeastwards. Elsewhere across the UK and Ireland, it'll be brighter with a scattering of showers, these mostly in the west. Northeast England, eastern Scotland and the Northern Isles will stay wet into the evening. Elsewhere, some of the showers could be heavy and wintry over the hills. Rain will clear mainland Scotland overnight to leave clear spells and wintry showers, along with the risk of ice. Later in the night, cloud and rain will move into southern Ireland and southwest Britain. The best of the sunshine on Sunday will be across northern England and much of Scotland. Elsewhere, it's likely to be cloudy with outbreaks of rain moving northeast throughout the day.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
This is Sky News, still to come. You're watching Sky News, the top stories. Travellers have been turned away from international flights bound for the United States under new immigration controls introduced by President Trump. Theresa May is in Turkey for talks on trade, counter-terrorism and the pressure caused by mass migration. And tributes have been paid to the renowned British actor Sir John Hurt, who's died at the age of 77. Sky News has been shown evidence that the Islamic State group planned to launch missiles tipped with chemical or biological warheads. The weapons had Russian markings and were discovered in the Iraqi city of Mosul by French special forces. Our chief correspondent was given exclusive access to a weapons factory where dozens of rockets and missiles had been modified. Stuart Ramsey has this report from eastern Mosul.
Iraqi special forces control every part of eastern Mosul now. The city is preparing for a fierce battle. Peace is still a distant hope. Stuart Ramsey, Sky News, Mosul.
Now, we just got some breaking news to bring you. More details are emerging about the deals Theresa May is agreeing on her trip to Turkey. Our political editor Faisal Islam is travelling with her. He joins us now on the phone. And Faisal, bring us up to date.
Yes, the Prime Minister is currently meeting with the Turkish Prime Minister, Prime Minister Yildirim, and they are signing a heads of agreement at government level for the...
OK, Faisal, thanks very much. We will be back in Turkey later on, where we are expecting a Prime Minister to hold a press conference with the Prime Minister of Turkey. Time now, though, for our weekly technology show, Swipe, with Gemma Morris.
Bringing the latest technology to your home.
This is Sky News. Let's cross over now to the Sky Sports studio for an update there.
Seven-time champions Liverpool have been knocked out of the FA Cup by Championship side Wolves. Own limit. Thousands of Irish fans at the MGM Grand to support Frampton, which takes place in the early hours of Sunday morning. More live now on Sky Sports News HQ. Reaction to Liverpool's defeat in the Cup. We're back in around half an hour's time.
You're watching Sky News. Coming up, the pledge and, of course, all the top stories throughout the afternoon.
And are you still doing it in your adult?
I pulled somebody's hair.
You're right. You're right.